Strange Brew Podcast, Season 1, Episode 369. The marathon is done. Congrats on a job done. We got her done. Ran the whole time. Finished it in a little better than 5 hours. The weather in Green Bay, and really in southeastern Wisconsin on Sunday, ended up being kind of a nightmare by the end of it. But we got through it. So we'll recap all of that. But the rain was coming down heavy for the final 5 miles of my marathon. Now, if for the people that qualified for Boston, I did not. Nor did I win the race. I did not win the $1,500 or the $1,000 or the $500. But those that got done that early probably didn't have to deal with the rain. But as I was hitting into hour 4 or late hour 3 on about mile 20 or 21, the skies opened like the Truman Show, and it was just a deluge of rain, thunderstorm, lightning, very, very frightening. And they actually did cancel the race. We're going to give you a little story on that. I'm going to recap the entire thing. My nips are in good shape overall. Those were good. My feet feel all right. My legs are not ideal, but I was told to expect that on the day after, and probably tomorrow too. Stairs are my enemy. I don't know that I'm going up or down many more stairs today. Well, we'll recap the Green Bay Marathon. Busy weekend in Green Bay. Luke Combs was headlining Lambeau Field Friday, Saturday. Matt LaFleur and the boys were shotgunning some beers on stage on Saturday. Although our text line and some of the people that went to the show took a few shots at Matty LaFleur and how much beer he may or may not have been consuming as he was up there with the theatrics of shotgunning a beer. So we will discuss a little bit of that too. I've got a little Packer audio I'm going to play you from Zaire Franklin. New linebacker now coming over from Indy in the trade this offseason, the trade for Colby Wooden. Now, remember we talked about when we finally got the audio of Jonathan Gannon and his introductory press conference and how he talked about one of the reasons that he wanted to come to Green Bay was not just about the defensive personnel, it was about the offensive personnel and Jordan Love specifically attracting him to come into Green Bay. Zaire kind of said the same thing. Now, I don't know if Zaire had a say in getting traded, obviously, but I thought more interesting audio from him. We'll talk about that. Of course, we're going to talk about my dream is coming true. I think all of our dreams are coming true. We get Rodgers and McCarthy for one more year, maybe one more year. I guess I don't know at this point. Maybe Rodgers will be back for a couple more years, but we're going to get at least one more year back where it all started. Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy. Rodgers officially signing a deal in Pittsburgh over the weekend for around $25 million. It's about a $10 million raise from where he was at last year for around $25 million. But I think this means I have to get the NFL Sunday ticket. I think this means I have to watch as many Steelers games as I can, as we are going to get Rodgers and McCarthy passive-aggressively dealing with each other for an entire year. Like an old married couple that got divorced and back together again. It should be a lot of fun. We'll talk about that. Of course, we'll go over the Brewer weekend with Minnesota. Almost had a sweep, but got another series win. During this stretch of tough games, they've been really good. And now tonight, for the first time since Game 5 of the NLDS at AmFam Field in October of 2025, we've got Brewers Cubs. As far as mid-May series go, this is a big one. We're going to line that one up for tonight, tomorrow, and Wednesday at Wrigley as well. Let's go.
On the ground, a chance here. Durham to Hardy to first. Hit time! Yes! The Brewers win! Yes!
Here comes Melvin to the 25, to the 20, Gordon 15, 10, 5, touchdown! Wisconsin! Record-breaking run!
Morgan a smash up the middle, base hit to center. Here comes Gomez around third. A throw and the Brewers win!
Here's the snap. He looks, he throws, it's complete interception. And there is your Super Bowl dagger.
Booker the drive, gets inside, leans in, knocked away and stolen by Holiday. Phoenix has to foul, and a pinnacle ball throws it down.
Swinging fly ball in the right center. Broxton is there, and they're the champions. They have done it.
It's been a 50-year journey. Wisconsin, we've got a room at the top of the world tonight. The Milwaukee Bucks are NBA champions.
Yeah, welcome in Monday morning. We'll talk a little bit about the PGA Championship as well, and Aaron Rai getting the job done yesterday. First Englishman to win the PGA Championship in 170 years. How is that possible with all the great golfers that have come through there? First one to win the Wanamaker Trophy since 1919. Not sure why I said it like that, but I did. Then there's no reeling it back in. Well, the first Englishman to win that since 1919. That seems just crazy to me, given the amount of high-level golf and golfers that have come out of England. But we'll talk a little bit about that at the end as well. Welcome in Monday morning. Like, rate, and subscribe if you can. We're getting more ratings. I appreciate that. It's taken a lot of hammering. It's taken a lot of hammering over the head and saying it every episode, or trying to remember to say it every episode. Like, rate, subscribe. Like, rate, subscribe. Like, rate, subscribe if you can. We'd appreciate that. However you consume the podcast, and we've got it all over the place now on every platform, basically, on iHeart, on Amazon, on iTunes, on Spotify. If you want, I'll just come by. I'll do a live podcast at your house. We'll do a Telegram. We'll do a singing Telegram version of it. However you want to consume the podcast, we'll try to make that happen. But please, if you have a chance, like, rate, and subscribe however you consume the podcast. Hope everybody had a good weekend. It was a loaded weekend in southeastern Wisconsin and in Green Bay, as we talked about. My wife and I, by the way, stayed at, because I didn't want to do the whole drive up to Green Bay the morning of the marathon on Sunday. And as I mentioned on prior podcasts, I did not plan well. And about 2 weeks before the marathon, or 3 weeks before the marathon, I thought, I'll get a hotel room today for Green Bay for Saturday night. Not really calibrating in my brain that you've got sold-out Luke Combs shows at Lambeau Friday, Saturday, which sounded like they were jam-packed. And we'll talk about the Matt LaFleur, the shotgunning of beers, and Tucker Kraft, the offensive line all there. I kind of forgot about that, or wasn't thinking about the correlation to that being the same weekend. So that was a busy part at Lambeau Field over the weekend. First person to headline Lambeau since Paul McCartney in 2019. My wife and I went to that show. When you're following a Beatle, I mean, say what you want about Luke Combs, and I think a lot of people like him, obviously. Some people might not love him as much, but when you're following a Beatle, like if you're following a Beatle in terms of headlining one of the most religious, I guess I'd say, or well-regarded stadiums, basically church to some people, if you're following a Beatle on stage there at this shrine to football, that's a pretty big deal. That means you've made it to a different stratosphere, I would say, in music in terms of fame. First headliner since Paul McCartney in 2019. But that was going on over the weekend. UWGB had their graduation weekend. State Darts weekend was all week, basically, Wednesday through Sunday. That was going on. A lot of folks in southeastern Wisconsin get into that. And then we had the marathon, the epic marathon on Sunday. So we talked about all the prep work, and then it was finally time for it this weekend. But I didn't want to drive all the way up on Sunday morning at like 3:30 in the morning because, as we talked about, when you do a marathon or a half marathon even, you want to get up. You don't want to get up an hour before the race and roll in there. You got to stretch out. You got to eat some food. You got to get some water. You got to hydrate. Got to get some coffee. You got to take care of business. And hopefully you do that a couple of times, 2, 3 times. Get it all out of your system. Whatever is in there, get it all out of your system. So you're not one of those pictures on AI images or on Getty images that's pooping your pants at a marathon. There's a whole catalog of those if you want to check that out on Google image search of marathoners over the years that are just poop running down their leg because they don't want to stop, and maybe something wasn't sitting right and it wasn't able to be controlled as much as you wanted to. So there's a lot of stuff. It's a 7 a.m. race. You get up at like 4 o'clock, or I think I got up at 4:30 to eat, to hydrate, coffee, eat some more, hopefully use the bathroom a couple of times to get over there. So I didn't want to drive all the way from Sheboygan. We ended up staying in Trivers. So we were about, I don't know, I think the drive was 26 minutes from Two Rivers to Green Bay on Sunday morning. What a lovely town. I had never stayed in Two Rivers before. It kind of feels like the town that time forgot. You ever go to a town, especially a smaller, like unincorporated? Two Rivers is not unincorporated, but you ever roll through a town in Wisconsin, those unincorporated towns or the driftless region, and it kind of feels like nothing's changed since 1995? That's how I felt rolling through there. You had some old four-door sedans that I like, Toyota Corollas, and cars I hadn't seen, I feel like, in 20 years. Plymouth Voyager vans. It feels like, it literally just feels like the houses haven't been updated. It just kind of feels like the last time that city got a fresh coat of paint was 1997. And I don't mean that in a disparaging way. I really enjoyed it. We stayed at the Lighthouse Inn right on the lake. I splurged for $180. Feels like things are very cheap there, too. But we splurged on a Lake Michigan room view at the Lighthouse Inn, which also kind of feels like a nice place, but probably has not been updated in many decades. But it was delightful. I mean, the view, like we were right on Lake Michigan. You crack the window open, get a cool breeze, and you hear the waves crashing against the rocks. That'll put you to sleep. That was beautiful. And they had a nice restaurant, and we got a really nice meal for $60. I had salmon and risotto and Parmesan risotto. My wife had, what did she have? Chicken parm with some spaghetti. I mean, I couldn't believe we had 2 cocktails apiece, $60. So we had a delightful time in Two Rivers. I was looking at Zillow in Two Rivers. Is there a place we can buy? Is there some kind of cottage or vacation rental that I could take advantage of in Two Rivers? So that was nice. And then we drove up on Sunday, obviously, to Green Bay. So first things first, I would like to thank my wife for all of her support and all of her effort as I've been trying to train and accomplish this goal of mine to do a marathon for a variety of reasons. Number one, she's a physical therapist, and I had in the last 2 weeks of my training. So I've been training since the second week of January for this thing. And in my last 2 weeks on some of the longer weekend runs, I was noticing on my right side some hip pain, some heel pain. And ultimately, we figured out I had done something to the arch of my foot on the right side or the big toe. And I was kind of landing weird to avoid some pain I had in the big toe area. But, you know, you're training for whatever, 14, 15 weeks. I'm doing the half marathons. I'm doing the 18-mile runs, the 20-mile runs. And then all of a sudden I get some pain in the last 2 weeks. And I don't think I'd be the first person in the world to train for a marathon. And then something comes up in the last week or two where you just can't do it. Some injury during training or some fatigue or some kind of lingering issue that, I don't know if I can get through this on Sunday. So she got to work right away and figured out 3 or 4 exercises. I did them every day, multiple times a day, to try to squeeze in as much recovery as I could. And between that and taking 3 or 4 days off leading into the marathon, I actually ran, outside of just the typical marathon pain of running 26 miles, from that point of it, I actually ran pain-free. And I don't think I would have been able to finish it on Sunday, especially given the rain and the conditions, if she had not worked on that with me when she was done with work. Like, she would work a 10-hour day as a PT and come home, and I'd say, my foot hurts. And then she'd have to, okay, so it's like having another patient. But I don't think I would have gotten through that. And also thank you to her, because if you have ever done something like this in your life, or you have a goal that's similar, it doesn't have to be marathon, it doesn't even have to be cardio or exercise related. If you've got a hobby or something that takes up a lot of time on the weekend, that takes a sacrifice from the person that's in your life. Like every Saturday from mid-January until this Sunday, I spend, in some cases, 4+ hours, but at least an hour and a half, 2 hours, 2.5 hours doing long weekend runs, whether it be Saturday or Sunday. And when you're an adult and you've got other things going on and you're doing house renovations, like our bedroom renovation, which we talked about a few episodes ago, that's just been sitting there now for 3 or 4 weeks because I eat up a lot of my weekend with training for that and spending time running and doing the practice run. So that's a big chunk of a weekend when you could be doing other things, taking care of things around the house, renovating things, projects, taking care of the lawn. That's been neglected a little bit too the last couple of weeks, and that's my fault. But it does take a certain amount of sacrifice from the people in your life to say, okay, he's just going to waste an entire Saturday doing this. So we lost a Saturday. So we lost like 16 Saturdays. So I want to thank her from both of those perspectives. Now, we drove up on Sunday morning. When I went to bed on Saturday night, when I laid my head down with those waves crashing, the window open and the waves crashing at the Lighthouse Inn, I thought I was going to be in a really good situation weather-wise. As we went over, as we've talked about, I am not a big hot runner guy because I don't think I could do a marathon in the middle of June or July. I don't think I could do one where it's 80s and humid out there. I don't think I could get through it. And on Saturday in Green Bay, it was 83. So when I went to pick up my packet, 83. When I went to pick up my packet on Saturday, it was T-shirts, shorts, sun was shining. It was warm out. But then Sunday's forecast, a cold front came through, a pneumonia front, as they say. And it was supposed to be cloudy and 55 degrees, which to me, that is the perfect condition to run as long as I had to run, to do a long run. Cloudy, no direct sun beating down on you, and 55, it's not too cold. You don't have to have a hat on or gloves on. It's not too warm. You're good in a T-shirt and shorts because you get warm pretty quick. Perfect. And at that time, there was only like a 30% chance of rain on Sunday. So I thought, wow, it's really lining up. All the masses I had to go to getting raised in Catholic Church, they're finally starting to pay off. Finally, I'm getting a little comeuppance from all of that. So I thought when I went to sleep on Saturday, I could not have been in a more ideal weather situation. We get up on Sunday morning. I'm having a coffee. I'm having a donut. I'm having a banana. I'm getting stretched out. And I just turn on the weather on the hotel TV, and there is a blob of green that's on its way northeast from the west toward the Green Bay, Manitowoc area. I thought, oh, no. But it didn't look like it was going to last the entire time. And it didn't look like it was going to be at that point. It did not look like it was going to be super disruptive. So we're driving up to Green Bay on Sunday, and you could just tell. I mean, there's some rain, but maybe there's some breaks, so maybe we'll be okay. So I start the marathon. We all start the marathon 7 o'clock, 7 a.m. National anthem, fireworks, the whole deal. And we start the marathon, and there's a little bit of a drizzle here and there, and the ground is wet. Remember, I talked about on Friday, one of my concerns with the rain factor is shirt getting wet, nipple situation, and also feet getting wet and getting soaked, and shoes and socks getting soaked. So the ground was wet because some rain had already come through, and if you run, you know, it doesn't take that long. You kicking up stuff, and little bits of water get on your shoes just doing that. But it wasn't the end of the world. A little bit of a drizzle, wet pavement. There were some dry spots you could navigate to, not too bad. So we get to hour 3, and I think I'm going to be about a 5-hour marathon. That was my plan the entire time. Training, 11.5-minute, 11 and 45-minute mile. That's what I was striving for. I would just wanted to finish no matter what, but that's what I was thinking it would be. You get 7 hours. That's when they shut everything down, except for yesterday, which we'll talk about. You get 7 hours to get it done, but I thought I'd be around the 5-hour mark. So at around hour 3.5, the skies open up. I mean, they open up, and it noticeably, the intensity of the rain picks up. And I thought, oh, God, no. Okay, well, all right. It's not the worst yet. And then I'm heading up to mile 21, and mile 21 takes you over. I forget what the bridge is in Green Bay, but you run up. It's all shut down, obviously. They don't have you running up and down an on-ramp with cars dodging you. Now, that would add something to the marathon. Maybe I would have finished it quicker if that were the case. If I had to run in actual traffic, then maybe I would have finished it faster. But you go up an on-ramp, then you go over the bridge. It's all coned off, and which always makes you feel safe when you've got cars whizzing by you 7 feet away going 50 miles an hour. Good thing there's this small orange cone here. And it really starts to come down when I'm on top of the bridge. I'm talking, I don't think what's the line in Caddyshack? I don't think the heavy stuff's coming for a while. And then all of a sudden, lightning, and then thunder. Thunder and lightning, very, very frightening. So that's where I kind of thought, I don't know, man. It's 21. When I'm going over that overpass, over that bridge, I'm not lying at all, and I'm not being hyperbolic or exaggerating. There's an inch of standing water on the bridge. So at this point, I am basically underwater. My shirt is soaked and heavy. My shorts are soaked and heavy, and as I told the people that were around me at the end of the marathon, one of the things I got kind of concerned about, I've got the drawstring tied, but, I mean, your shorts they weigh like 5 more pounds because they're soaked with water, and those start going down. And my shoes are absolutely drenched, and my socks are drenched. I can feel it in my feet, my spongy, pruny feet. And at mile 21, I kind of thought, am I going to do this? I mean, at that point, though, you're so close. If that would have happened to me at mile 10 or 11, I do wonder, I probably still would have tried to gut it out, but I wonder if, pre-half marathon, if you pull the ripcord at that point, okay, we can live to fight another day, do a quick half and live to fight another day. But at that point, I'm 5 miles away, but 5 miles on the back half of the marathon, it's not going to be a fast 5 miles. And it is just coming down and coming down and coming down. So at that point, because I think my wife and my mom and her friend Laura, they had come to kind of cheer me on. And I think they were sitting at mile marker 22 or 23. So at mile 21, I had a brief thought where I thought, I'm just going to text my wife, help me, please. The other factor there was my phone is getting soaked. And I had on low power mode, like 19% battery. So then I started to think, if I don't text for help now to come and pick me up somewhere, my phone might die. And then if I really need help, then I'm in a tough spot. Now, there are people around and there's cop cars, so I probably would have been okay. But I thought in that moment, there's an out here coming up soon. But I thought 5 miles, you just got to find a way. I mean, you've got to find a way. So I get to mile 24 or 23 maybe. And all of a sudden, I see there's some people ahead of me. There's some people behind me. And a cop car is making its way against the grain, heading the opposite way on the path we're on. And it's stopping to talk to everybody. And I thought, oh, that's probably not good. So he gets to my stop and said, hey, just so you know, they canceled the race. The marathon is officially canceled at this point. My guess is, and then talking to people afterwards, the city of Green Bay with the lightning. It's not the rain so much, but with the lightning, the city of Green Bay, I would assume because of liability, if I get struck by lightning, they don't want to have a lawsuit on their hands that or maybe it's the Epic or whatever company, they don't want to have a lawsuit on their hands if somebody gets really hurt and then they say, well, nobody told me it was canceled and I got struck by lightning. So call David Gruber. One call, that's all. Struck by lightning in a marathon? One call, that's all. So I think they had to do that for legal and liability reasons. But I remember I just had passed mile 23, so I'm hurting, I'm drenched, I'm trying to find a way to gut out a 5K here. And the cop stops me and said, hey, just so you know, some of the support's going to go away too, and it's canceled. And I said, he said, you can keep on going if you want to. I said, I think I'm probably going to keep going, man. Like, I've been training for 18 months. We're just past mile 23. I don't love that what my next 40 minutes is going to look like, but I think I'm going to try to finish it. I'm already this far. He said, yeah, I probably would too. So I kept going, but it is true. A lot of the support staff did stay. I wonder if they had to leave for liability reasons too, though. So the water stations, everybody left there. They had tables out still with water and Gatorade. By the way, I think I ate about 7 bananas, like Donkey Kong out there. I think I ate like 7 every time a banana was offered to me, and it did help. I mean, as soon as you eat a banana, I had not really done that during my training, and as soon as you pop like a half banana, it doesn't take more than 5 minutes maybe, and you get a real little rush of energy and a rush of sugar, and it was, I don't know if they put something in the banana. Maybe they put a couple of pills in the banana like I'm a Labrador. I have no idea. I just felt better. So a lot of that support staff did leave. As I texted my buddies, there were points then because as the support staff leaves, there are still some traffic cones out there, but traffic starts taking over the streets and the marathon is kind of done. So I did have a moment where I thought, I don't know if I'm even going the right way. I think I'm going the right way. And the people that know me well know that I have a tendency, if I don't have access to GPS or MapQuest, I have a tendency to get lost relatively easily. That the app they had us download called Race Joy did give you updates in your headphones. So at some point I got, you're on mile 24 and a half, you're on mile 25. So I must be going the right way. And ultimately I am able to get through it in a little over 5 hours. But I'm telling you, that last 5 miles with just the drenching rain, it's cold, guys, like 50 degrees and kind of cold. Now, remember on Friday, what did I say? Did I not say on Friday's podcast, I would prefer a rainy run to a hot and mucky and sunny run. So from my lips to God's ears, that's precisely what I got. But I could not have been happier to get through it and to overcome some adversity. Like, I don't want to be cheesy here, but I did learn a little something about myself. I learned my German stubbornness does go to levels that I hadn't seen it go to before. That is some German stubbornness of, I could just quit this and get in a nice warm car and get out of here. And so what? I could tell people I finished the marathon. Who the hell's going to know? Who's going to know the difference if I finished it or didn't? Maybe I'll drive to the finish line, get the medal, and then say I finished it. But there is that German stubbornness of, I can't quit this. I can't admit I'm wrong. I'm 20 minutes early for everything. I can't admit I'm wrong, and I'd rather die than quit something like that. Those are the 3 tenets of being a stubborn German. And I kind of feel like that's what got me through, too. But not to be cheesy or corny, but I felt hours after the race was done, I had zoned out, I had taken a little nap. I felt like, well, okay, you kind of got tested there. You got tested. It's always good to be tested, I think, at some point, at various points in your life. And I got tested, and I got through it. And now I've done it. Now, I know we went back to Friday, and I said, is this going to be a tipping point where I do a bunch of marathons? Or is this going to be one of those things where I say, I did it once, so that's enough for me. I can check it off the list and say I did a marathon. I'm a marathoner, and that'll be the last one. I don't know how I feel yet about that. I will say this. There is a part of me that would like to attempt a marathon where I'm not running in a downpour, in a torrential downpour for 5 miles, just to see where my time would be. Now, again, I was able to stay pretty much on pace with where I wanted to be. I think I probably could have finished, 10 to 15 minutes earlier if I was not dealing with that amount of rain and that amount of saturation in my socks, on my feet, on my shoes. They're still drying out. Even this morning, my shoes are still, so they'll be soaked for another day, I think. So I'd like to maybe do one at some point and train for it. And now that I kind of know the pain I'm going to encounter in my legs and all that kind of stuff and how I have to keep eating during the race. And I had a buddy tell me, even if you're not thirsty, make sure you grab every water stop, every Gatorade stop. Even if you're not thirsty, get something because you just never know. So I think I learned a lot just about doing a marathon in general, so I'll have that knowledge in the back of my head. But there is a part of me that would like to attempt one where I'm not running through an absolute sheet of rain for the last 5 miles of the race. Now, I had a bunch of B-texters because we talked about my nipples a lot and my concern for nipple chafing. I had some people ask about that on Facebook when I put a picture up of it on the B93 page. And when I talked about it on the air this morning, I said, the nipples made it through. The nip-ease, E-A-Z-E, it was beautiful. And they said, as I was putting them on the car, as I was putting my pasties on the car, I made a note to my wife. It said, breathable on the package and water-resistant. And with the rain already kind of starting to come down, I said, we're going to find out if they're water-resistant. They were. I said, I retold this story on the air. We stopped at the Quick Trip in Waldo on the way home to get some gas, and I grabbed some Gatorade, and I forgot that I had them on. So I was in the bathroom, and after I used the bathroom, I was near the mirror, and I had my shirt lifted up, and I'm ripping my nipple pasties off. And sure enough, a dude walks in, and I'm just like mid-ripping a pasty off my nipple. Hey, man, how's it going? Like it was something totally normal. But I have to tip my cap to Nippies. Now, would a Band-Aid, like a circle Band-Aid, is probably cheaper than the Nippies. But I have to tip my cap. They worked. There was zero chafing and through all the rain and a shirt that was saturated with sweat and water from the rain. They never came off, so my nipples were good. I did say on the air, we're going to cut back on the nipple talk. I feel like as I've been talking about marathon training so much on the air, we've talked a lot, probably too much about my nipples. Now, we're still going to talk about my nipples. We're not going to totally go away from nipple discussion, but everybody's got them. Look, I've got them. I think I see a nipple. So I'll cut back on nipple talk by like 75 to 80%, but we're still going to have 15 to 20% nipple content. So those worked out beautifully. And then I had a bunch of people ask how I am feeling this morning. And I would say from the Seinfeld episode where Kramer wears the dungarees, where he wears the jeans. Remember how Kramer was walking in that episode?
You're walking like Frankenstein.
That's exactly. I just got to get them worked in. I am walking like Frankenstein.
You're walking like Frankenstein.
So,
you're walking like Frankenstein.
I would say the biggest pain I have is in my quads. Like, I can't lift my leg up. So if I'm walking on a straight line, if I'm walking on a flat surface, that's okay. I'm not moving quickly. But if I'm walking on a flat, straight path, I feel pretty good about that. But if I have to go upstairs, and we live in a tri-level. So we have, if you've ever lived in a tri-level house, there are 5 or 6 stairs to get to every level. So that took some time. And then especially this morning after I got some sleep last night, my wife, when we went to bed, said, just so you know, you're probably going to be more sore tomorrow than you are now. And I was already pretty sore. And she was right. So it was a slow go this morning. It was a slow go down the stairs. So just take it literally one step at a time. Nice and easy. But I'm hoping most of this soreness will be gone by tomorrow or Wednesday at the latest. But that was my report back to the people that texted in. How are you feeling?
You're walking like Frankenstein.
I would say it hurts to sit and it hurts to stand up and it hurts to walk. But beyond that, how was the play, Mrs. Lincoln? Other than the pain while sitting and the pain while standing, I feel great. And hopefully this will be gone in the next day or two. So I appreciate all the support. I had so many people shoot me Facebook messages or emails saying good luck on Saturday or Sunday morning and then wanting to know the recap of it this morning. And that I appreciate that as well. Yeah, I don't know if I'll do another one. I think maybe at some point I will, just because I kind of want to see how that would go with better weather conditions. But you really can't control that. I could plan out a whole other marathon. The exact same thing could happen. So I would like to be able to do one like that, but we'll see. But the Green Bay Marathon, over 1,000 people were there. And I'm assuming now you have to watch all the qualifiers, right? If you're a Boston qualifier, I think you get on a list and you don't know yet, but you have an idea. And then you have to find out after all the qualifiers are done, what are the times? What's the cutoff of the time? So we had a lot of that conversation after the event on Sunday as well. It was certainly an interesting experience. It was an experience. But thank you to those that supported or asked how I was doing or things like that. All right, now let's get into it. Let's start half an hour into the podcast. Let's start with the Brewers. Well, that was the only action that was going on. Brewers and Twins over the weekend, and they call it rivalry weekend. You had the Cubs playing the White Sox. You had all the kind of rivalries. Now, I would say Brewers-Cubs tonight is a much bigger rivalry than Brewers-Twins, but this always is the rivalry weekend designation. As we discussed on Friday, I call this the politest rivalry in sports. We've been to many Brewers-Twins games. I've been to Brewers-Twins games at AmFam. I've been to them at Target Field. There is very little animosity. There is very little contention. I will say, now, we were busy a lot of the weekend, but on the parts of the games we watched, it felt like there were a lot of Brewers fans at Target Field. A lot of "Let's go Brewers" chants, and then Twins fans would kind of drown them out. But that's as acrimonious as it gets between the Twins and Brewers. Oh, sorry. Oh, excuse me. No, you're good. Oh. It's just two franchises that are basically the exact same with people that have this very similar sentimentalities. And it's just not one of those things where if you go to, well, not Wrigley's not that bad, but if you go to a Brewer-Cubs game, you're probably not going to get in a fight, but there's a chance, depending on who you're sitting around and how angry they get or how much the trash talk gets elevated, you might have a bad situation. You're never going to have that, I don't think, in a Brewers-Twins game. There's never been a fight in the stands at a Brewers-Twins matchup. Now, the Brewers got the job done with a pair of one-run wins on Friday and Saturday, so that set them up for the sweep. On Friday, you had Aaron Ashby in relief get his 8th win of the year. Aaron Ashby is 8-0 as a reliever, and Trevor McGill got a save on Friday night in a 3-2 win. They rally late, down 2-1, got a couple of runs on the board in the 8th inning. Jake's actually good. So I started this thing last year, and a lot of people do it now. And I don't think it's not because of me. I think it's because Jake sounds like Rake. Maybe I'm one of the early adopters of Rake Bowers. I might not be the first, and the fact that a lot of people are using that now, that does not go back to me, although I'll take credit if you give it to me. I did that as a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek thing because he's been here for 3 years now, but I wouldn't say he's been great. He batted sub-200 3 years ago with a little bit of power. And then he was better last year. I think he hit 230 last year with a little bit of power. His biggest moment was that home run he hit in Game 3 of the wild card when it was 0-0 late in the game, and he hit a pinch hit solo shot in that game. My wife and I were there. That was 2024. But, he does enough. He gets on base. He takes walks. He does have power. He's never been a guy who bats for average, but he can play in the outfield. He can play at first base. He's really good at first base. So he gives you some defensive versatility. And for all those reasons, he's able to carve a roster spot out. Now, remember we talked about Jake heading into the regular season. He had a sensational spring where he hit like 400 with power at an OPS of 1,100. And then remember the day, so we had a podcast on opening day, right? And Jackson Chourio gets hurt. And he's on the IL. So now, not only Jake makes the roster, but now he's going to get some playing time. Vaughn's out and Chourio are out, and he's an outfielder first baseman by trade. And remember we talked about, we're going to find out whether or not those spring numbers were a mirage from Jake Bowers, or is he able to duplicate some of that success in the regular season? And I'd have to say, yesterday, on Sunday, the wind conditions at Target Field on Sunday were atrocious. Now, you had a couple of home runs, but you also had a couple of hits off of Jake Bauers' bat that off of his bat looked like they were going to be 450-foot colossal home runs, and they get knocked down by the wind, and they're caught at the warning track. And it had him frustrated. So he should have had 4 hits yesterday with 2 home runs. He has 2 hits and then 2 deep flyouts. But coming out of yesterday, he's got 7 bombs now, 25, 26 driven in. He's hitting 280. He's got an 830 or 840 OPS. I think Jake's good. I think the term Rake Bowers is no longer tongue-in-cheek. I think he's kind of good. He had the go-ahead double on Friday night. And then, McGill came in 1, 2, 3. Got a save on Friday. We talked on the Friday podcast about after the Uribe blow-up. Do you have a closer situation or a closer issue? It was interesting they went to McGill on Friday. And he nailed it down. 1, 2, 3, no problem. Didn't allow a hit, had a strikeout, and he got save number 5 on the year. Then you go to Saturday's matchup. Logan Henderson, really solid. 5 innings of 1-run ball. Now, it kind of feels to me, and we're going to talk more about Chad Patrick in a second. We talked about Chad Patrick on Friday. It feels to me now, given what we saw on Saturday, that Logan Henderson is probably here to stay in the rotation, and Chad Patrick is probably going to stick in the bullpen moving forward. Henderson's been one of the top prospects in the minor leagues going into last year. Remember, we talked about it. He had 5 starts last year. In his 5 starts in 2025, Logan went 3-0 with a 1.78 ERA. That's it. Is that good? In 25 innings, it's a small sample size, but he lived up to, in that small sample size, the prospect billing that he had. And now this year, in 4 starts, he's 1-1 with a 3.5 ERA and 23 strikeouts in 18 innings. Again, he has been really solid. So this has been a guy knocking on the door for a while, and the thing that's kept him out is that you had this depth of starting pitching. Well, now I kind of wonder if he's here to stay, because you end up again down 1-0 on Saturday. Put a run on the board in the 4th inning to tie it. Jackson Chourio, Jack hit his first home run of the year and put the Brewers up 2-1. So the bullpen had been used a lot in recent games, and they bring in Chad Patrick in the 6th inning out of the bullpen again. 3rd time in a row, or 4th time in a row. Remember, we talked on Friday. He's been coming out of the bullpen. Now, as we talked about on the Friday podcast, Pat Murphy so far has gone out of his way after those games to say he's still a starter. We're just trying to adjust to the schedule. We had a rain out. We had an open date. So a lot of stuff has been going on with the schedule, but Chad Patrick is still a starter. I don't know, Jim. In the words of Tony Romo, I don't know, Pat. I don't know, Jim. So Chad Patrick was out there in the 6th inning, and he's dominant. He mows him down. Okay, bring him back out there in the 7th inning. Mows him down. At that point, I thought he'd be done. 2 innings in relief, that's a good set. Brings him back out in the 8th inning. Mows him down again, puts a 0 up. At that point, I definitely think he's done an Abner Uribe because he used McGill on Friday. I'm thinking Uribe for sure is coming in then. At this point, Chad Patrick has given you 3 scoreless in relief. They put him out there again, and he got it done. A 4-inning save. He only gives up 1 hit and has 3 strikeouts and gets his first career save on Saturday, which makes us look really smart because who did we talk about on Friday? SMRT. Who did we talk about on Friday when I was going over? I think they're going to stick with Uribe. They're going to give him a chance to bounce back, or maybe they'll give McGill another chance, which they did on Friday. But I remember I said, if those guys can't get it figured out, like you're probably a few more blown saves away for McGill and Uribe, because if Uribe blows another one, okay, we'll give McGill another chance to get his job back. And if that goes by the wayside, maybe Uribe gets one more chance. But at some point, if they keep blowing saves, you're going to have to make a move. And remember the name we tossed out there on Friday? Chad Patrick. Because his stuff just looks better in a smaller sample size. And I would assume that's because Chad Patrick, as we discussed on Friday, he knows he can unload. I don't have to give you 80 pitches. I don't have to cover 5 or 6 innings. I don't have to see this lineup 3 times through or more. I can really kind of empty the clip here, so to speak, and give a little extra on the fastball, give a little extra on the cutter. We can mix our pitches a little better because I'm not going to see this batter 3 times, so we don't have to hide something from him for a 3rd time through the order. He's just one of those guys, and not everybody's like that. Not every pitcher is like that, where you go from a starter to a reliever, and then all of a sudden you look at some of those starts or those appearances as a reliever and say, man, his stuff looks better. It just looks better, crisper. The rotation or the changing of the pitches and the pitch calls, I think, are better, and you can use his diverse skill set a little better out of the bullpen. He looked great, and I just think that's his spot. I think he is an elite righty out of the bullpen. And now that you've got Henderson up, and we saw Gasser on Sunday, and he wasn't good. We'll talk about that in a second. But you've got other guys that are waiting at the minor league level. If Chad Patrick is better served giving you length out of the bullpen or maybe being a multi-inning closer, that feels like the role he should be in. So you get the 2-1 win on Saturday. That sets up Sunday. Chance for a road sweep. Now, they had their chances on Sunday. And like I said, the wind was knocking down baseballs left and right for Minnesota and for the Brewers. The game was tied at 1, 3rd inning. Joey Ortiz, who actually had a nice offensive day yesterday. He had a double and 3 walks. He was on base all 4 times. Now, when we talk about Joey Ortiz, what do we always say? The offense is so bad, but his defense is so good. That's what keeps him at the major league level. He had a critical error in the 3rd inning, a 2-base error that allows a little league home run. A runner was on, and then the error allows that runner and the batter to score, and that put the Brewers down 3-1. Now, Garrett Mitchell found a way to get one out, his first home run in a long time, since Kansas City, I think. Solo shot got the Brewers to within 1, and then Yelly was back on Sunday. So Yelly did not play from Tuesday when he came back for the adductor strain. He immediately had back issues. Now, I read over the weekend, apparently Yelich had said at some point he was having that back flare up before Tuesday. Well, then I understand that he wants to go out there, and he's the captain, and he's the leader, and he's making the big money, and he wants to help the team. But, dude, the back issue, that's your problem. So if you already were feeling that flare up on Tuesday, when they go to you and say, all right, we're going to activate you off the IL, maybe bring that up. Maybe bring up that my back doesn't feel great. So he had been out. He played one game, and then he had been out. And if he didn't play yesterday, my guess is he's going on the IL. But he played yesterday, and he walloped a 400-foot home run into that wind. That tied the game. Then in the 5th inning, Grant Anderson gave up a solo shot to Ryan Jeffers. Twins right back in front 4-3. 8th inning, Brewers got a leadoff double from Jake Bauers. Couldn't score him. And then the Twins add a tack-on run to go up 5-3. 9th inning, Brewers had 2 on, nobody out. They get a run home on a Bauers, Rake Bauers, RBI single, tying run at third base, but they could not get that run across, and they fall 5-4 on Sunday. So on Sunday, the Brewers went 1 for 14 with runners in scoring position. Yeesh. Buzz your girlfriend. Woof. That's not good. And they weren't good all weekend. So here's my takeaway from that this weekend. First of all, the Brewers have the 3rd best batting average in Major League Baseball when hitting with runners in scoring position. Hitting with runners in scoring position is one of those things where when you have a bad game, everybody seems to think, the Brewers are so bad with runners in scoring position, when the evidence is that they are actually not bad and very good, but they had one bad game. But that seems to be one of those stats when you lose a game like Sunday and you lose by a run and you had a chance for a sweep and you couldn't get it done. When you go 1 for 14 with runners in scoring position, you go on Twitter and immediately, this team just can't get a hit with a runner on. They can't do it. Well, actually, they're one of the best in baseball. But don't let numbers get in the way of a good narrative. Don't let the evidence get in the way of a hot take. So they've actually been really good. They weren't good on Sunday, and actually they weren't good all weekend. So here's my takeaway from the weekend. The Brewers went Friday, Saturday, Sunday, a 3-2 win, a 2-1 win, a 5-4 loss. They went 3-1, a 2, a 3. They went 3 for 31 with runners in scoring position. Again, even with those numbers, still the 3rd best batting average in baseball with runners in scoring position. They go 3 for 31 over a 3-game set on the road, and they still won that series. They took 2 out of 3. So it's not good, that number, but the ability to be able to win when you are not getting those clutch hits with runners on, to take a series, to take a road series, that's what I'm taking from that. Because if you tell me, again, we're going to do this, if you told me on Friday afternoon that they would go 3 for 31 over the weekend with runners in scoring position, I'm thinking they definitely lost the series and they maybe got swept, and they actually won the series. So for as maddening as it was on Sunday to have all of these chances and not cash in, you have to, again, look at the season-long numbers. They're really good. Now, yeah, if you have a bad week, you could be middle of the pack very quickly, but right now that number is still good. And the fact that you were able to win when you were so bad with runners on over the weekend, you won the series, a road series, a rivalry series, I think you have to feel good about that. So they come out of it with a 26-18 record after the Sunday loss. 8 games over, and the Cubs also lost on Sunday. They got a walk-off. They gave up a walk-off 2-run shot in the 10th inning, the White Sox. This is the last time I'm going to bring it up, and it will take it for me to actually fulfill this bet, if it does happen this way, and it looks like it's going to. Remember I said to begin the year when the Brewers swept the White Sox opening weekend that if that team doesn't lose 95 games minimum, I will eat my hat. They're 2 games over 500. The White Sox are 24-22. They're like 40 wins away from being able to get past that bet. So that's the last I'm going to bring it up. If we get to a point in October where somebody emails me, I'll find a way to eat part of a hat. Not an entire hat, part of a hat. But the White Sox walk off the Cubs yesterday. The White Sox take the series. Now, that's a rivalry, Cubs-White Sox. The White Sox take the series on the south side from the Cubs. Did you see PCA yesterday, too, by the way? Pete Crow Armstrong. So Pete Crow Armstrong is in year 3, I think, in Chicago. But last year, he really burst onto the scene, putting up pretty good power numbers. He kind of tailed off at the end of the year, really good center fielder. And he was a big part of the Brewer-Cubs rivalry last year. And we're going to play here in a second the Brewer-Cub playoff matchup last year. Well, he's got a pretty shiny image so far, But those White Sox fans, they got under his skin. A viral video yesterday, I guess 2 videos. And the second one from earlier in the game came out later. But the one that started to go viral was late in yesterday's game between the Cubs and White Sox. PCA makes a really nice catch at the wall. He's an excellent center fielder. Makes a really nice catch at the wall. I guess the White Sox have one of those sections like the Brewers do in right field where a lot of fans can sit and it kind of juts out. You know where all those crippling home runs that other teams hit like Pete Alonso? There's that short porch in right field at American Family Field. I think at some point I campaigned to move that back to end that because so many heartbreaking opposing team home runs have landed there. Get rid of that. Get those fans out of there. Push that wall back. Mr. Atanasio, push that wall back. So they have a similar thing where they have an area where fans can sit. So he makes that catch. And then we got 2 separate videos, one from the field and one from that fan area. There's a woman who looks like she's probably in her late 20s, early 30s. And I guess who knows if it's true. The story on Twitter is that they were celebrating an engagement. They had gotten that spot because they were celebrating an engagement. And she's one of the parties in the engagement. So he makes that catch and they're booing him and they're booing him. And PCA goes right up to that fence and to her says, and I'm just going to paraphrase here a little bit or I'm going to abbreviate. He says, S my DB. I thought, oh man, S my DB. And he walked away. And then the area, those fans, I'll say that to a girl from the South Side of Chicago. So those fans got really fired up then, and it kind of just looks like PCA said that they were chirping him, and that's what led to that outburst, to him probably taking it too far for an athlete to a fan. Now, I will say, this is a man in the arena conversation. I guess I would say if you're chirping a guy all game and he makes a play like that and he looks at you and says what he said, if you're getting in it all day, then obviously outside of a physical altercation, that's all a part of it. So if they go a little over what you were doing, that's what, if you want to be the man in the arena, then get ready for that kind of back and forth. But they claim they were just kind of booing him and not giving him too much of the business. He says otherwise. And then the video came out after that of him in the on-deck circle getting set to hit. And somebody said something about his mom. And then PCA said, my mom's in the stands. You believe? I mean, those South Side White Sox fans, like they tend to do, they saw a mark. They saw a guy who couldn't quite handle the level of trash talk that he was going to get. And yeah, that viral video, if you're, because he's one of the guys, a face of Major League Baseball, a major market. He's kind of a unique guy, has a little bit of a unique look. He had the blue hair. Pat Murphy called him the blue hair kid early in the year last year. Yeah, the blue haired kid. And the MLB kind of markets guys like that. They had him mic'd up during the All-Star game last year. Seemed like a super likable guy, like to the point where I thought, I wish I didn't like him this much. And yeah, they revved his engine a little too hot on Sunday. S my DB. That's not what you want. That is not what you want if you're Major League Baseball. So anyway, the Cubs lose on Sunday as well. So heading into tonight, it is our first Cubs-Brewers matchup of the year. Our first Brewer-Cubs matchup since Game 5 NLDS.
Losing Game 4, there was this feeling inside the Brewers clubhouse today. A confidence. They're an out away from the championship series. Uribe deals to Carson Kelly, swinging a bouncer to short. Ortiz has it, and the Brewers are going to the championship series. They take 3 of 5 from the Chicago Cubs, and the Brewers have a date with the Dodgers, celebrating behind the mound as the Brewers have found a way to advance. An improbable group that nobody gave a shot to has slayed the Chicago Cubs. And now their job, take down the reigning World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers in the championship series.
And nothing bad happened after that. The end. But this is the first matchup. So as I talked about on the morning show this morning, as far as mid-May series go, and it's still really early, it's the first matchup of the year. This is a pretty big mid-May series with how good the division is. Everybody's still over 5. Everybody lost yesterday. Everybody is still over 500 in this division. It is May 18th. Memorial Day weekend is this weekend. Everybody's still over 500. So heading into tonight, the Cubs have played 3 more games total than the Brewers. They've won all those games. So the Brewers are a game and a half back and even in the loss column. That's always what I look at. Where are you at in the loss column? The Cubs have 18 losses. The Brewers have 18 losses. Now, what the Brewers do with those 3 extra games will determine how much they're actually behind because they played 3 less games. But that's how things line up tonight. It is a 1.5 game division deficit and even in the loss column heading into tonight. Now, Robert Gasser made the start on Sunday, his first start of the year. Not that great. Pat Murphy was really not happy. I didn't think it was a great start. 4 innings, 3 runs, 2 earned. I didn't think it was a very good start, but Murphy in the postgame, some of the audio we used for Sportscast this morning, they were talking about Gasser, and he said Gass just didn't have it. And I guess combined between hit by pitch and walks, he had 5 free passes in 4 innings. And Murphy basically said, you can't pitch in Major League Baseball like that. He was really down. So hopefully that's a way to fuel Gasser because, again, like we've talked about with Gasser, you go back 2 years ago in the pre-Mizorowski days, he was the top pitching prospect, a lefty, and then he came up in 2024 then and was really good across 5 starts, but then he hurt his shoulder. He had Tommy John. He came back at the end of last year. He was okay in some spot duty at the end of last year. He's got decent numbers at AAA, and he's still only 25, I think, so there's still a lot of upside there. We'll see how he bounces back if he is given another start. But the fact that they used Gasser on Sunday means they moved everybody back a day for this Cubs series. So here's how the pitching lines up. Brandon Sproat on the hill tonight. The Sproat GOAT will take on Shoto Imanaga. Clearly the Cubs are favored tonight with that pitching matchup. Imanaga, a really good lefty, sub-3 ERA. And Sproat, we just don't know. We've seen a lot of good. We've seen some bad. As we've talked about with Brandon Sproat, and my comparison to 2019 Corbin Burns, he's just not consistent enough. He does not have the reps yet, so we'll see how he does. A tough road environment. Fans are going to be on him. It's going to be revved up, I would think, tonight, so we'll see how he responds in that environment. But I would say on the ESPN matchup predictor, it's got a 60-40 split, like chance to win or odds to win. So firmly in the favor of the Cubs tonight. We'll see how Sproat does. But then you get Miz tomorrow at 6:40. And you get Kyle Harrison on Wednesday at 6:40. So you got the 2 top guys right now, Miz and Harrison, in your rotation going on Tuesday and Wednesday. But this is a big one. Big one starts tonight, a 6:40 first pitch. And then you have a day off on Thursday. And as we talked about with this stretch of schedule, then you have the day off Thursday. And the Dodgers are in town Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But that wraps up this stretch, which started against New York last weekend. And so far, remember we talked about 8 and 7 in this 15-game stretch? They sweep the Yankees, take 2 out of 3 from San Diego, take 2 out of 3 from Minnesota. They are 7-2 right now on this stretch of schedule with these 6 games remaining, 3 at Wrigley and 3 at home against the Dodgers Friday, Saturday, Sunday before the Cardinals are at AmFam on Memorial Day Monday for an afternoon tilt. So it's been really good so far on this stretch. They're 1 win away from where I want them to be. Let's hope they're not still scrapping for that by the end of the week, but so far so good, 7-2 through 9 games. All right, so let's talk about, where am I here? Nipples, Frankenstein. So let's just wrap a lot of NFL stuff into one here. Number 1, it was Luke Combs' weekend at Lambeau Field. The text line with people that went to the show either Friday or Saturday, so it must have been Saturday. The people that went to the show on Saturday, at one point, which happens a lot, Luke Combs or whatever artist, I don't think Paul McCartney brought anybody out in 2019, but at some point, they'll bring out some Packer players because nothing gets a crowd going at Lambeau. A little bump, 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 and you get some Packers that go out there. It's a no-brainer. By the way, Luke Combs had Packers specialized merch on Friday and Saturday. I've never seen an artist do that. I guess he does that at every city he goes to. But he had a Packer shirt. He had a Packer hoodie with him and the Packer logo on it, so they must get the licensing rights there. And then he also had some hoodies that were very like hunting, fishing specific. It seems like they bring specialized merch to every venue or every city they're in. I've never heard of an artist doing that, but I guess if you're selling out Lambeau Field, you've got the money to probably do that. And I would also think it's easier to do that now than it would have been back in the day. But instead of just having the generic tour t-shirt for $55 made by some kid in Bangladesh or a hoodie for $100 and they're the same 5 or 6 things at every stop, it seems like they actually have specific merch for whatever city they're in. And if there's a big sports team there, they make sports team specific merch. But on Saturday, they bring up a bunch of the offensive linemen, Tucker Kraft and Matt LaFleur, and they all shotgun beers. Luke Combs, LaFleur, everybody, they all shotgun beers. LaFleur was taking some heat on the text line for his inability to shotgun, with many texters saying they felt like he didn't even drink half of the beer, which called to mind the Super Troopers.
What's the matter? Your mama didn't teach you how to chug?
Your mama didn't teach you how to chug, Matt LaFleur?
What's the matter? Your mama didn't teach you how to chug? I am all that is man every time.
This maple syrup chugging
What's the matter? Your
contest.
mama didn't teach you how to chug? I am all that is man every time.
Oh, he was taking some heat on that. Does that fuel the narrative? We talk often with Matt LaFleur. He seems to be okay with X's and O's. He seems to be a pretty good offensive mind. We know he's very good at developing quarterbacks, which we've been over. But is he a leader of men? Is he a head coach that can win a Super Bowl? Is he a guy that players would die for on the field, like maybe a Dan Campbell? Does the fact that he can't shotgun a beer properly fuel the narrative that he doesn't fit in with the NFL locker room culture? It did kind of look like, remember when the Bucs were good? Let's just take a moment. Remember when Bakhtiari and Rodgers were sitting courtside at big Bucs playoff games, and they would have chugging contests, and Bakhtiari would slug a beer in 2 seconds, and they cut to Rodgers, and he had to sip it. Like he acknowledged that, hey, I'm not that guy. I'm not. What's that meme or gif you'll see? You're not that guy, bro. You're not that guy. And Rodgers kind of acknowledged it. He's pinky up, and he's slowly sipping, and then Bakhtiari slugging another beer. Those were the good old days. But LaFleur had a little bit of that Rodgers to him, of just kind of a slow sip up. I just thought it was interesting on the text line. A lot of B-listers, we were talking about the Luke Combs recap this morning, said that guy can't chug a beer. She can't shotgun a beer to save his life. Does that add to the narrative? Should that be on First Take this week? Does Matt LaFleur, is he a head coach? Can he win a title in the NFL if you can't shotgun a beer? Now, there's a topic. Anyway, so that was over the weekend. And then I want to play you this clip just because, as we said in the teaser, this is the second person, in addition to Gannon now, that has been on the defensive side of the football, that has said something attractive about coming to Green Bay as Jordan Love. Packers traded Colby Wooden to Indy for Zaire Franklin. That was before all the other stuff they did. And Franklin is coming off of a down year, but he led the league in tackles 2 years ago. Indy implemented a new defensive coordinator last year. Didn't feel like he fit with the scheme, but now he's in Green Bay, and there are a lot of high hopes for him, and he's going to replace that Quay Walker spot. Well, here he was on ESPN. I think this is on ESPN, or on NFL Network, talking about how, like Jonathan Gannon said, Jordan Love is a big reason.
It starts with the quarterback. Jordan Love, I told him he was the main reason I came to Green Bay. I wasn't coming to Green Bay, or going to an organization without a proven franchise QB, and he is that. He's the type of quarterback you want to be around. Great man in the locker room, competes his ass off. Competes every single day, is constantly working to get better. It's been a long time since I've seen a QB1 just really raise and level everybody by his work ethic like that. So it's really dope to see. And then at the end of the day, we got, one of the best defensive players on the planet, Micah Parsons as well, too. So when you got a quarterback and you got a pass rush, you got a chance. I think, with those guys coming together, again, talent across the board, guys I know, they've been to the playoffs, and they haven't finished the way they wanted to. Coach LaFleur has been huge on, preach and finish in the way we want to, talk about, having that killer instinct and doing what it takes to get to that next step. And I think these guys are ready to take that next step. I'm ready to help lead them there and do my part to bring a Lombardi back to Green Bay.
First of all, what a delight Zaire Franklin is. Second of all, is shotgunning a beer a part of whether or not Matt LaFleur can take you that next level? That's the second person we've heard talk glowingly about Jordan Love, and one of the reasons that it is attractive to come to Green Bay is the fact that you have this young, ascending franchise quarterback. So who's right? For all the people out there that tell me that Malik Willis is better and Love doesn't have it, who's right? Green Bay Packer fans on Twitter who tell me that Jordan Love sucks, or actual people that coach and play in the NFL? Does Zaire Franklin, as a former all-pro linebacker, middle linebacker, does his opinion mean more about Jordan Love than Packer Backer 69 on Twitter telling me that Jordan Love is never going to win anything and he's terrible? Whose opinion has more weight there? Who's right between those two people? So I thought that was an interesting clip. And the second time we've heard that from an incoming new person, Jonathan Gannon and now Zaire Franklin, saying, yeah, the fact that Jordan Love is there, that's a reason I want to play in Green Bay. So that feels pretty good for the guys in the trenches defending Jordan Love. That feels pretty good. We'll do an email episode. We'll do a mailbag episode in like a week or two. I've got an interesting question because we talked about the Packers' schedule on Friday. And I mentioned briefly, we didn't get into it, but on the back half of the schedule, the Dolphins are on the Packers' schedule. So Jeff Hafley and the Dolphins are going to be at Lambeau Field, I think, in December. And assuming Malik Willis gets that starting job, which I think he will, could he be, if he's not hurt, the starting quarterback? And could it be Love versus Willis at Lambeau? And how do I feel about what that outcome could be? So we'll go over that email at some point. But I thought that was interesting audio. Then the other big NFL thing is Aaron Charles Rodgers is officially back, baby. As expected, he signs a 1-year contract to rejoin the Steelers, year 2 in Pittsburgh. Now, he's going to get paid more. Last year, I think he got paid $15 million. We all kind of thought that was going to be it. This year, he's coming back with an incentive-laden contract, but it's going to be worth upwards of $25 million plus. So they're paying him a little bit more this year. Like we said when we talked about this a few weeks ago or a week ago, by his standards, his numbers are down, which you would expect at 42 years old. But he's also a victim of how unbelievable video game-like his numbers were for most of his career. So when he has a 24-touchdown, 7-pick year and throws for 3,500 yards like he did last year, people go, this guy's done. It's like, okay, is he? Are those bad numbers? 24 touchdowns, 7 picks, a quarterback rating of 95? Oh, this guy sucks now. Like, okay, yeah. Compared to the years where he won an MVP and threw 45 touchdowns and 6 picks and a quarterback rating of 120, which is never probably going to happen again, or maybe a handful of times. Yeah, I guess by those standards he sucks, but those are still pretty good numbers. So he's coming back, and we get the last ride, I think. Now, at this point, I don't know. I thought Rodgers, now it's 2 years in New York. 1 year he was hurt, the whole year. American flag hurt. And then a second year in New York, now 1 year in Pittsburgh, and now this 4 years now he's going to be playing since leaving Green Bay. I would think this is it, but I don't know that I thought it would go this long. I thought a year or two post-Green Bay, and that would be it. But we're now in year 4 post-Green Bay. But we get the Mike McCarthy, Aaron Rodgers reunion. We're going to get the two old war horses passive-aggressively rolling their eyes at each other for the duration of the year. We're going to get Aaron Rodgers on a bad play call or a bad offensive game, staring at the sideline with his hands to the air, saying, "What the bleep, Mike?" And I, for one, cannot wait, and I will be, as I promised. I'm going to spend whatever it is on YouTube TV. What is it, $600, $500 for the NFL ticket where you get every game. You get every single game. And I just feel like I can't miss. Now, obviously, if the Packers are playing at the same time, I'll have to flip between, or obviously I'm going to pay way more attention to the Packer game. But I think I just have to have access to all of the Steelers games because I want to watch as many plays as I can of the Rodgers-McCarthy reunion. I'm a little surprised. I don't know. When they hired McCarthy, Rodgers' future was still in the air. And I remember when they hired McCarthy, we talked about, God, wouldn't this be great if these two get to spend one last year together? But I didn't know McCarthy getting hired. Did that make it more likely or less likely that Rodgers was going to come back? Because their relationship did not seem great at the end of 2018. But again, at that point, they had been together for 12 years. They'd won a lot. They were on the downside. Things weren't as good as they were. So that's in the world of an NFL quarterback head coach relationship. When you get to a decade, that's a long time. They were a decade plus. So some of that is to be expected maybe. But when they hired Mac, I kind of thought, what's their relationship? It wasn't good at the end of 2018. McCarthy gets fired mid-year. And LaFleur comes in, and Rodgers flourishes again, wins a couple of MVPs. They didn't win a title, obviously, but kind of sees this renaissance. But was there any communication in those years between McCarthy and Rodgers? Did they talk at all? Did they text once in a while? So I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But now we know, I guess, obviously he's back, so that's the answer. But I wondered when they hired McCarthy, does this make it more or less likely that Rodgers wants to come back? I suppose if their relationship was bad, the Steelers hire McCarthy, and then Rodgers probably says, all right, enough's enough. I don't want to, or he'll find somewhere else to play, or just say, I've had a hell of a career, Hall of Fame career, I'll hang it up. I love that we're going to get at least one more year with these two back in the saddle for the first time since 2018. I can't wait to see how this looks in Pittsburgh. I don't think Pittsburgh is a title contending team. I do think they are, like they almost every year are, a division title contending team. They are the defending AFC North champions, and we got at least one more playoff game with Rodgers last year. We'll see if they can do it again this year, but I don't think they're an AFC contender, a Super Bowl contender, but I do think that they can compete in that division, and they can maybe win that division, win 10 games again this year. Well, I am so excited for those two to reunite for at least one more year in Pittsburgh. Now, let's talk real quick about the PGA Championship. So our guy Cam did not get it done, was not really in the mix on Sunday. So Aaron Rai is the PGA Championship winner. As we talked in the teaser, it's hard to believe with all of the great English golfers, he is the first Englishman, the first English golfer to win the Wanamaker Trophy since 1919. 107 years that they had not won the PGA Championship. But he got it done, and he surged on Saturday and Sunday to the top. I don't know what his hit would have been if we were to put money on Aaron Rai. It's his first major championship. One thing I love about him from a broadcasting perspective, I texted my buddies this morning, Rai rhymes with so many things. If you are, and I didn't listen to the final Jim Nantz call, you know, one of the big calls, Dick Enberg used to always say, oh my, you could go with, oh, Rai. You could have done that. Rising to the top. They could use that. Rye is tougher than triple ply. And then I know we used this on the podcast a few weeks ago. The Rock says there are many kinds of rye.
Now The Rock says there are many type of pies.
Yeah.
There's shepherd's pie.
Shepherd's rye.
Apple pie. Pumpkin pie. Now The Rock says there are many type of pies.
Yeah. So it just rhymes with so many things. My buddy Pat said marble rye, like in the Seinfeld episode. He stole my marble rye. The catcher is the Rye. So his name, from a broadcasting perspective, is a treasure trove because it rhymes with so many things and you can use it in so many ways. It's like a Swiss Army knife. So Swiss Army knife? No, I don't think that works. We'll workshop that one. But Aaron Rai wins the PGA Championship. So the next up then, when is the Open? Don't call it the British Open, John. When is the Open Championship? We're going to be on top of this a little bit more. This one I don't think will sneak up on me. Like I said on the Friday podcast, my brain has not calibrated to the fact that the PGA Championship is back in May. We've got, where are we for the Open Championship? Royal Troon. They're at Royal Birkdale. It is July 16th through the 19th. Well, that's not the next one, though, is it? Now, that's the last one. This sucks. It stinks that the British Open in the middle of July, that is the last major of the year. I hate that we have a month and a half of summer and we don't have a major for that time. So the U.S. Open is at Shinnecock in Southampton, New York, June 18th through the 21st. So that's the next one up. These will not take us by surprise. My whole life, the U.S. Open has been around my birthday and Father's Day, and the British Open is in the middle of June or July. We're celebrating 250 years as a country this year. I'm not going to call it the Open Championship. It's the British Open. So that one's in July. It just feels like a shame that you wouldn't have a major title then from mid-July through the end of August. The PGA Championship being in August was the perfect place for it to be. So Aaron Rai, the PGA Championship winner over the weekend. All right, and no Bucks drama. We have nothing. There's no new Bucks drama. I, for one, am satisfied with the fact that we don't have any new Bucks drama for an entire episode. It's another week, and Giannis is still here. We're a week further along, and Giannis is still here. That'll do it for us here on your Monday morning. We'll get back after it on Friday. We'll recap Brewers Cubs. Big, as I said, as far as mid-May series go, this is a massive series. Not going to make or break the season, but one where you can maybe get yourself in first place or take 2 out of 3, start to build up that season series. We'll recap that on Friday. Any Packer news, any Bucks drama, maybe feels like there'll probably be something by Friday, right, with the way this offseason has gone so far. We'll talk about that on Friday, too. Have a happy, safe work week. We'll chat with you then.